I'm Caitlin Dryden, and this is Slut. I'm Caitlin Dryden, and welcome to Slut, the show where I question who is and what makes a slut. Earlier this year, I noticed that Stasia Patwell was back in LA. Stasia is the creator of the School of THOT. Yes, that's THOT. And for those who don't know, that means that hoe over there. And it is a fitness and accountability program for women. I've been subscribed to her Patreon for about a year and a half, and she posts 4 new live classes a week, which you can do live with her on Zoom, or you can do them pre-recorded on your own time. And I do her classes usually pre-recorded because I'm a little bit lazy and I don't like to get out of bed at the allotted class times. And I do all of her classes from home. And I can tell you that they have really changed my body, but not just that, they have changed my mind. Stasia moved to Greece last summer to be with her husband, but came back to LA in January at the top of the year to be with her friend Whitney, who lost 160 pounds and was getting skin removal surgery. So Stasia was in town helping out and seeing her friends. And then I also went down to visit her and I did a live class with her. So I was a fit model and I did like the workout routine and we were on Zoom and stuff. And then after that, we taped this episode. What really works about Stasia's program is that she has accountability groups. So every day you say what you ate that day, how many steps you took, if you did a workout or not. And you also say if you drank the allotted gallon of water that you need to drink. And this is when this is not for the Patreon, but this is like when you're actually doing one of her programs. And then you also have to work out at least 3 times a week doing one of her classes. And what I also like about Stasia's workouts is that she weaves mantras into them. So yeah, that may seem, very LA, witchy, woo-woo, and kind of annoying, but they do work. And for somebody who kind of doesn't really like working out that much, they can brainwash you into liking to work out. And since I was about 12 years old, I've always been doing some kind of fitness routine. I was in sports and stuff, but I was always doing fitness or some sort of diet thing. And I always ended up not doing them anymore. I would stop doing it after a period of time because it got boring and, kind of life catches up with you. And I can tell you right now that Stasia's classes and Stasia's program is far from boring. She used to be a stand-up comedian, and so she brings a lot of humor to her workouts, which make them a lot more enjoyable. But she doesn't just do that. She does a lot of shit talking. And if you know me, you might know me by now, and this may be one of your first episodes, but I love some shit talking. So that's what you'll hear next. You'll hear lots of humor, some shit talking, but you're also going to hear something that I think is inspiring. So, sluts, let's get to it. Stasia Patwell is up next. Stasia, you are a personal trainer, creator of the School of THOT, and a comedian. And just before we started, you're Irish Italian. Yeah. So am I.
Are you?
Yes.
Oh,
I have some Scottish in there as well.
Oh, that's even crazier. Yeah, we're nightmares.
We are nightmares. But, the best nightmare you can have. Lovable.
Nightmares.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I went to an all-girls private school growing up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In Canada?
In Canada.
Oh, that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, it was like torture for me. Not in the beginning. I really liked it when I was younger, but when I got into high school, I hated it. But now I'm so glad.
Why are you glad that you went?
I think part of the reason I'm so independent and I kind of play by my own, whatever the fucking saying is, beat to my own drum, whatever, is because I had the confidence of being able to like do that when I was going through puberty. I was just around girls.
Yeah.
So there was no like, oh God, I gotta look. I mean, I can't imagine being like going through puberty now with Instagram and filters. Like we were allowed to be ugly. Like I cut all my hair off like a boy. I wore like bright blue Doc Martens to school. I went through a whole phase where I thought I wanted to be a doctor and I wore literal doctor scrubs to school with a stethoscope every day like a psychopath. But like I could do all those things because I didn't care what anyone else thought of me.
I would always wear like really baggy shorts underneath my kilts, like down to my knees. It was a really fun time.
Yeah, you got to like play with being whoever you wanted, which I think that like, especially now, like if I were 15 years old and like going to school here in LA with like Instagram. I mean, you're not allowed to be like ugly. You have to be like Kim Kardashian like through puberty.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah. So I'm very appreciative of it. And I also think that it sort of just ingrained in me like the feeling of supporting and being supported by other women and like a sisterhood. And like that's something that like really has stuck with. I mean, that's how I built my business, you know? So I'm really grateful for that.
That's kind of like how you've landed here today, because you now live in Greece, but for a really long time you were living in Venice. And you are back just for a few weeks because your really good friend and client, Whitney, lost 160 pounds over the past 2 years with you?
But she, not 160 pounds in 2 years, but she lost a lot of weight with me, but she started maybe like 3 years ago. So it's been like a long process.
3 years? Like,
she's incredible.
Wild.
She's incredible. Yeah. I mean, the goal once my husband's visa goes through is to be like both places. So I don't know what that's going to look like. If it's going to be like 50-50 or 70-30, who knows? But he's stuck in Greece right now. And I was like,
he's not allowed back, right?
He's not allowed back. He's a bad boy.
He overstayed his welcome.
Yes, he overstayed in 2017 before I knew him. And so it's really hard once that happens. So it takes the spousal visa, it takes about a year. So once that goes through, it'll be a lot easier. But for now, I'll be coming back and forth probably every 3 months. Like I won't wait as long because I do have like a lot of amazing friends and clients here. My dad's here. Like I have a life here too that I want to stay connected to. But I love being in Greece. It's fucking awesome. Like
what's the best part about it?
There's no stress in the air. Like it felt like for the first time my nervous system relaxed. Like I sleep 9 hours a night there every night.
It's incredible.
There's no like, I gotta buy this, I gotta do that, like all that, like I gotta be somebody, I gotta get famous. Like that does not exist. Like,
and you felt that when you were here.
Oh yeah. I mean, I even noticed right when I landed at LAX and was like driving here, I was like seeing billboards for stuff and I was like, oh shit, I need to buy that. I need to buy that while I'm here. Oh, I need to make sure I get that while I'm here. And it was like immediately that like drive to like, oh, and I was like, oh my God, already. And obviously like the air and the food is so much cleaner there. And like, listen, Greece has problems. It's like a broke country. So it's ideal to be an American making money online in Greece. It's easy to have a good life there. But for a lot of Greeks, it's a nightmare. Like they make no money. And in the beginning, I was like dumb because I was just excited to be there. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm from LA. Like, hi, I'm from LA, And they were like, LA, in their head, LA is like, LA, I guess. I guess it's like it's the promised land. You know what I mean? And we were looking for apartments one day and we went to this one apartment that was like, I mean, it was a shithole. It was fine. I would have been happy living there. I wouldn't care. I was like, this will do. Like there's room for me to teach. Like I'm not a snob, you know? And the rent was, I think, like $1,300 a month, which was pretty expensive for Greece. And I was like, okay, like I think we could live here. And they're all speaking, they're two agents with my husband. They're all speaking Greek. And one of the women was wearing an LA t-shirt. And I was like, oh, LA, like I just moved here from LA. Like
your worst,
dumbass, And so their eyes were just like, what? You know, like it's as if I'm like, I'm the Queen of England. Like, oh my God. And so I was like, how much to move in? Like, what's the deposit or whatever? Like what? And they're like talking to each other in Greek. And my husband just starts laughing and looking at me and just like laughing. And I'm like, what? Like, I have no idea what they're saying. And he's like, I'm going to tell you outside. And I was like, okay, but like also want to tell me now. So we left and he was like, they want $11,000 up front to move in. Yeah. Well, 11,000. It's like basically the same. Yeah. He's like, and they want 9,000 of it in cash. And I was like, okay, next time you need to tell me this in person so I can like talk shit to their faces. But so shit like that is
annoying,
frustrating. But it's fun. Yeah. I was over LA and now I appreciate LA. So
that's a good place to be where you're like excited to come back. And I'm so happy that you're back because I've been wanting to have you on the show for a while, but I was like, it has to be in person if we're going to do this. Yeah. And so I saw that you were in town and that you were looking for fit models. So I was like, okay, what if I like fit model for her and then we could tape after? But then I was like, this is like kind of a nightmare for me, like having a video of myself working out online. But then I heard your voice in the back of my head go, bitch, you've done harder things.
Oh man, I'm so sorry you're hearing my voice in your head. What a nightmare.
No, it was good. It was good because then I was like, you know what? It's fine. I'm going to be able to handle this.
It worked perfectly and you fucking killed it today so perfectly.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad.
I was like, I have no idea who this girl is. I hope she really has done one of my workouts for her, but we're going to see. It'll be fine. And it was great.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah. You know what? I'm happy that you entrusted me, a stranger, a slutty stranger, to come in and intrude your friend's house and your time away. So,
I know. I told you earlier, but I was telling my Greek husband, I'm like, this girl emailed me. She wants me to do her podcast. It's called Slut. No, I just want you to know, like, I don't think I'm a slut, but like, I get it. I'm open. I like talk shit. Like, I understand where it's coming from. And he was just like, it's okay, baby boo. That's great. I'm like, okay, good. So
that's that.
Yeah.
But so just to bring it back to what we were talking about at the top, but your friend Whitney, she just had skin removal surgery, which is fucking incredible. It's like really, it was really like inspiring to hear also as somebody who like attends the classes to see that. So like, how are you feeling as, you know, one of your clients and closest friends?
Oh, I mean, I don't even think of Whitney as my client anymore. It's funny because she started as a client in the 8-week program, THOT certification. So I didn't really know her that well because there's a lot of women in the program. And then she signed up to do one-on-one personal training with me online. And then we started to get like really close. And now, I mean, she's my best friend. I mean, I couldn't like live without her. I've helped her lose weight, but she's helped me so much. It's like just
How has she helped you?
I mean, she's a creative business advertising genius. Like she's an absolute genius and she's just like good at life. She's just good at, like, for instance, the last problem she solved for me, she's just a naturally gifted problem solver. Like, and I thought I was good at that, but she's like on another level. So I was like thinking I can't take Clifford back. I'm like trying to make him a service dog.
Clifford's your dog.
Like, which is like, he's not a service dog. Like he's a 90-pound killer, you know, like it's like, and I was like, am I going to forge these papers? I mean, I really was like, I have to get him back. And then she literally spent 5 minutes on it, found this pet transportation thing, which I thought was going to cost like $40,000 to get like a pet charter. It was $5,000, which is like reasonable. Wow. And like, she's just always fixes things, you know? Yeah, I'm just excited for her because I think this is going to be like a very big, powerful year for her. And I'm just happy that she is like going to be able to see results of all of her hard work, you know?
So since we're in Venice, I thought that we would start here.
Okay.
You moved here in 2005 after graduating college. And you said before that you were raised to be the next Hillary Clinton. But what happened when you moved here?
I became an alcoholic. It took a little detour. what I mean by that is like my parents, I went to a fancy girls' school in Boston. My parents were teachers, so I was on scholarship there. And
my dad
writes dictionaries. Yeah. And my mom was a Latin teacher, like very nerdy, very academic, like all the books in my house. My house was covered ceiling to floor with bookcases and books, but they were all in Greek and Latin. Like
Didn't
I couldn't
they
even
meet
read
in ancient Greek class?
Yes, yeah, they did. And my mom's not Greek, but she's had this love affair with Greece forever. She lived in Mykonos for 5 years in the 70s, and we grew up calling my dad Baba, even though no one's Greek. Anyway, so I just, from the way I was raised was sort of like, oh, I'll probably be a lawyer, or I'll be some sort of doctor, or like I'll just be very traditional, stay in the academic world, like. And that's just not the way it happened. I went to school and I went to the Claremont colleges. I went to Pitzer, and
that's in California,
like an hour outside of LA. And then as soon as I majored in theater and sociology, and I was going to be an actress. And then I moved to Venice Beach, and I started working in I've worked in every restaurant you've passed here. I've worked in them all. And I just became an alcoholic, like pretty quickly. And that's basically what I did is I would be in acting classes, do some auditions, and drink. And that sort of that lasted until
what was the appeal of drinking?
Oh, I'm an alcoholic, so the appeal was like escape. It was just my solution.
What
for
were
everything.
You escaping?
I think. I don't know what I was. I don't know. That's a good question. I'm like, am I paying you for this? I'm like, okay. I'm like, are you going to invoice me after?
I'll take it.
Was I escaping? I think I am a true alcoholic. Like it's an addiction. And I think it's like trying to fill, like, well, in AA, they'll say you're like filling a God-shaped hole. It's like I didn't know my purpose, or I didn't believe in myself. I had no direction. I felt like a loser. I didn't know who I was, and drinking made everything easier. And then everyone's sort of drinking in their 20s anyway. So it's like, okay, that's sort of normal. And then you're working in restaurants, and it's like everyone's kind of an alcoholic if you work in a restaurant.
Yeah, so I've worked at a restaurant
even
before.
More normalized. And then I don't think drinking started as an escape, but I think it became that, you know, because you don't have to like really look at yourself for what your issues are, what you really want to create in your life if you're drunk all the time. So I think it started innocently enough and then turned into alcoholism and an escape, and like a solution for all my like shame. But once I got sober, what was the question? I'm like, what did you ask
I just asked what your escape was.
Right. Yeah. Well, no, I think once I got sober, I realized that I was also medicating,
medicating sober again?
Medicating with the booze, I was treating what I've found out sober. Like I just had chronic, serious, major depressive disorder. And that got even stronger when I got sober. My depression didn't go away. It got worse when I got sober. And then I was like, oh, this is what like was what the was real happening. Like I was escaping my own brain. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was trying to escape my own brain. That's really what it was. And I didn't realize that until I took the booze away. And I was like, oh, the booze was my medicine for that, even though it was making it worse. And now I really have to deal with the real issue, which is my fucking brain.
Yeah. And not be distracted. And you were such a well-known alcoholic in the area that the bouncers would radio each other when you left one bar going to the other. And what did they call you?
They would call me MBT, which was short for nothing but trouble. And I found that out when I was sober, and I was like, thank you so much.
Honestly, it's a great name.
Cute.
Yeah, it is a cute name.
I know, but it's like they would be like radioing each other, like MBT is going to show up in 5 minutes, because all the bars around here are like all close together, or whatever, and we would all kind of ride our bikes. And I was a waitress here, so they all knew, Yeah, so MBT. Yeah.
I found this really quite hilarious. So at one point, you were a part of the Venice neighborhood council. And this was like also like while you were drinking at the time. And I actually found your candidate statement online. So I was wondering if you could read it for us.
Oh, God, this is so embarrassing. Okay, well, first I would like to say.
Tell us, what would you like to preface?
I would like to say that I actually didn't like plan on running. They like put my name on there because I was like, this is so nerdy. I joined when I had moved to New York and for like a couple months, I hated it. And I moved back and I was like, let me get involved with Venice. I love it so much. And I was like, oh, I'll help like throw a party for the outreach. I don't know what, I was trying to like be a good person. So I was like, oh, I'll like throw a party for them. And I it was like all 80-year-olds on the council. So like I did nothing. And it was like such a great party because I was like 20, And then they were like, you should run. And I was like, no. And they're like, yeah, you're gonna. And they like put my name on the thing. And then I think I won because like nobody else was on there. It wasn't like that big of a deal.
But this is your statement.
Oh my God, I have not seen this since. What year is this from? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I couldn't find the date online.
Hello, Venice. I am here.
It gets better.
This is so mean of you. I am here to bring fun and energy to the Venice Neighborhood Council. I am an aspiring actor with a passion for community involvement, helping the homeless, and throwing parties. Wow, what a dork. Wow.
I thought that was really good. I really liked the...
Well, it got me elected.
Yeah. I like you going from I like helping the homeless to throwing parties.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have also made out with homeless people. So
which homeless? Okay, now we're getting to the slutty stuff.
I mean, I made out with one homeless guy, but I didn't realize he was homeless till like one night we were out partying. We were at some like hippie party at some like, it wasn't a church, but I think it was a church, but it was some, some Venice hippie fucking event party. I mean, I was like barefoot all night, hammered. Met some guy there who was like playing the guitar, like hot Latin guy. Like, I think he was barefoot too, but like so hot, like tan, like muscly, playing guitar, like long hair, but like very bohemian, And I was living right over here, actually. I've lived on the walk streets a lot. I was living like right off the boardwalk, and I remember we were like walking on the boardwalk, like running through sprinklers and shit. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's like me. I mean,
he's so free.
He's so free. And I can't remember if I brought him back home with me or not. I'm sure I did.
He needed a place to sleep.
I'm sure, exactly. Yeah. He literally had nowhere to go. And then the next morning, I wasn't with him, so must have left or whatever happened. And I was walking down the boardwalk to get a cup of coffee, and I saw him literally with a cardboard thing, like begging for money. And I was like, this motherfucker was fucking homeless.
He tricked me.
Wow.
Well, I don't know if he tricked you, but
and why is he still not in my house then? Like, he'd rather be homeless. And like, okay, cool, great.
That's when you know it was really bad. I
guess it didn't go well. I don't remember. I was drunk. But I mean, I saw him on the streets for like years after that. And I would just be like, ooh.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
The alcoholism really came to a head, I think, when you were fired for sexual harassment and you were living with a coke dealer at
like
the time.
2 blocks away from here.
So could you just take us back to that moment?
Yeah, what a fucking pleasure.
What was going on there?
I was just a fucking angry, drunk bitch, I am a hard worker though. So I was waitressing on the rooftop at Hotel Irwin. And I remember just singing like, I run this fucking rooftop. Like, I'm the best waitress here. Like, nobody can handle all the tables I can handle. And like, these chefs are not getting their fucking food out fast. Like, I was just like kind of a cunt. Like, you know what I mean? And the reason so I was always drunk too. And I was living with a coke dealer. So I was always, I was just aggressive. I was just very aggressive. And like, I remember one time I was like, where the fuck are my chicken skewers or something, like to the cook, like, where the fuck are my chicken? Like, I was always just talking like that. And I pissed that guy off so much that he went down to HR and complained about me and said that I sexually harassed him because we were all hitting each other on the butt with towels. We were all doing it. It was like not me. It was like, it was clearly like a thing to get back at me.
There's something that happens in restaurants where you're touching each other all the time. There's like an unspoken body language.
Everyone's sexually harassing everybody.
Yeah.
And also I talk a lot of shit. So it's not like, but I certainly didn't like sexually harass this guy.
Yeah. Maybe you harassed him.
Yeah, I harassed him for sure. It wasn't sexual, but like for sure I harassed him. But so I think it was just like an easy way to get me in trouble, which I don't blame him. I was a bitch. Like he was probably just like, get this fucking girl off the roof. Like I'm sure it was a nightmare, So I remember I had to go down to HR because I was like getting written up for whatever this guy said. And I was like, fuck that. Like, I'm not gonna, like, I'm quitting. Like, I don't need this shit. I'm not gonna, because I remember she said to me, like, I was thinking I was a queen bee up there and like I was friends with everyone. I had, I ran my little roost, And I remember she said to me, not everybody up there is your friend. And I was like, and then I was like, I'm quitting. And I wrote in the, to write the reason for corporate shit why you're quitting. And I was like, my star is falling. It's like
the drama.
It's drama, so much drama. And then, at the time I was living with the coke dealer and I was like partying a lot, obviously, and like woke up to the SWAT team, like with guns out and him on the floor. And then the SWAT guy came over here. And I think you must have heard this story, but
no, you can tell it. Tell the story.
But we were just like, I was taking like a little disco nap on the couch, and I woke up because I like heard something. I look over and there's literally like 8 guys with SWAT written on their thing with guns down at my friend on the floor. And they hadn't seen me because I was asleep on the couch. And I was like, I thought I was like hallucinating because we'd been like up all night partying. And then I sort of stirred and one of the cops saw me, came over and he was like, did you buy drugs from this man? And I'm like, no, I don't fucking buy drugs, loser.
I'm a blonde bitch.
Yeah.
All right? I don't buy drugs.
I've never bought a drug before, sir. Okay. I do them all the time. But and so he's like, do you have drugs in your purse? And I'm like, no. And meanwhile, I'm like, I have no fucking idea if I have drugs in my purse. Like, I had a huge fucking purse. Like, and he's like going through my purse. And I literally said, this is when I was on the neighborhood council. I was like, I'm on the neighborhood council, sir. I'm sorry. I just fell asleep. And he's like, you need to take your purse. And he knew I had been doing drugs. He's like, you need to get your purse. You need to get the fuck out of here.
Wow.
And I walked out of that. Meanwhile, I had like a bunch of that guy's cocaine like stashed in my apartment. Like it was like a fucking nightmare.
And didn't you have to bail him out that night? But to bail him out, you had to track down a client.
Yes. So he had his one phone call, called me. This was like before crazy GPS cell phones. I don't know what year this was, probably 2010 or something. And he was like, my client, whatever the fuck his name was, Bob or something, he has cash to bail me out. Like, you have to go to his house and get the cash. And I was like, okay. And he literally had to stay on the phone with me while I got in my car. And he was like giving me directions from prison. Like, now take a right, now take a right, now take another left. It's the third door. And so I'm like on the phone going up to this guy going, I need $10,000 to bail him out of jail. And then I did it twice, and I did it that night, and then I did it a week later, and then finally went to prison. So anyway.
Did you visit him?
Yeah, I visited him in prison. I stayed in his house while he was in prison. I was like, I'll hold down the fort. Don't worry. It's fucking so stupid. But then shortly after that, I got sober and moved out into the apartment where my dad lives now, just down the block. And then my mom was here. And at the time that this was all going down, she was the academic dean for Marymount School for Girls in Bel Air. So while I was literally crumbling, she was like an academic dean at the fanciest girls' school in Bel Air. And she did not understand what was happening to me because like I hid it kind of like. She didn't understand why I was so sloppy and sad, and she didn't fully understand what was why I couldn't get anything together. Why I had like no car, and I kept losing jobs, and like it was confusing, but it wasn't clear to her yet that like I was just a full-on alcoholic. Because I wasn't just like slamming drinks when I was, I could hide it enough, you know? And so she was like, I'm going to pay for you to go to this psychologist, this life coach psychologist. And I was like, okay, fine. And I didn't have a car at the time. She's like, and if you do all these sessions with him, I will co-sign a car for you. And I was like, fucking great. Okay. Get me that 2009 Honda Civic, baby.
And then we can get back on the bottle.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
probably
I'm
what
like,
was going
let's
through your
go.
brain. Yeah.
I will do all the life coaching for a car. And so I went to this guy, and the first session, I mean, he had my number right away, you know, like this, because turns out later he was in the program. So he like fully like recognized game, you know, and he was like, you know, you're going to be doing all these sessions with me. I think maybe it would be helpful if you don't drink for 30 days so we can really get to the root of the program, or the root of like what's going on with you. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm going to happy hour after this, but okay, whatever, guy, you know? And he was like, and also before the next time you come, I would love for you to go to 2 AA meetings before our next session. And I remember when he said that, the first thing I thought was like, how the fuck did he know? Because I knew. And I also felt like a sense of relief, like, oh, someone fucking called me out finally. Like it was finally felt good for someone to be like, I fucking know what you are, you know? And I was like, oh, finally someone fucking knows, you know?
There's nothing left to hide.
Yeah. And so I went to my first AA meeting. Before I even fully had sat down in the seat, I was just sobbing. And like all the women came up to me afterwards and were like, you should come back. Like, come back again, you know? And then, you know, after those 2 AA meetings, I was like, oh, well, I know I'm a full alcoholic. I knew I was, you know? My shrink was like, can you give me 30 days sober and do 30 meetings in 30 days? And I was like, okay, fine, whatever.
One a
I
day.
can smoke weed though, right? Because like I have a bag of weed I just bought, like back when we were buying bags of weed, like on the street, you know? And he's like, no, like be sober for 30 days and like let's reassess. And
what was that first 30
I don't
days
remember.
like?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
It's like completely blacked out. I have no idea. But I do know that my life just immediately started to like improve, you know?
In what way?
I just started to feel a little more clear, and I didn't want to die. This was at first. It's like the pink cloud, you know, where you're like taking the poison out. And I was like, oh my God, like, yeah, I do have a fucking problem. And like, okay, I can get another job. Like everything just becomes more clear, and your body is starting to feel good. And then it started to be more clear that like, oh, I am depressed. Like I do have some shit I need to like address here.
So the depression got worse.
Yeah. I mean, not immediately. At first, you're kind of riding that pink cloud where you're just like, woo, I'm so, you know, and then it started to be clear that I needed help in that area too.
Yeah.
And I got transcranial magnetic stimulation where you like get your brain fucking zapped by a magnet every day for 3 months. It's like fucking crazy. And the psychiatrist gave it to me. It's like very expensive. It's like $600 where it was then. I don't know what it is now, but it's like $600 a session, and you have to do it like a lot. And he gave it to me. He's like, you need this, just do it. And I was like, okay. So I did that. I mean, I was medicated, the whole shebang. And now I'm not medicated. I'm not on anything. And then I started to get into Abraham Hicks and like a bunch of woo-woo spiritual stuff, doing mantras, meditating, all this stuff, which now I'm like very hardcore about. And I really do think, you know, I wouldn't have gotten into that without AA. I wouldn't have gotten into that without
the manifestation
completely falling apart.
And that's a big part of like your program.
It's like my whole thing now. It's like, yeah, fitness, your body, yes, but also manifestation is everything. And I really believe now, and like, you know, I have a lot of mental illness in my direct family and extended family and alcoholism, but I really believe that all of my mental issues were not like, I have a chemical imbalance. And you know, the doctors would say like, we made antidepressants for people like you. Like this is for you, you know? But I really think it was just very sloppy thinking. I was never taught how to think, how to choose my thoughts and like be conscious about what I believe in. And so I really think that a lot of my issues were just sloppy thinking. And I'm not saying depression isn't real at all. I mean, I am on the books, you know, but I think a large part of it is losing control of your thoughts and not knowing how to wrangle them in. And once you're like in deep in that like depression,
you're lost. You're in the ocean at that point. Yeah. Hold on, sluts. If you want to learn more about the School of Thought or Stasia, go to stasiapatwell.com. And you can also follow her on Instagram at Stasia Patwell. Some of you may be contemplating joining her Patreon. For those of you who are contemplating, there are 2 tiers. One is $20 a month and the other one is $35. I do the $35 a month one. For $20 a month, you get 2 live classes a week, and then you also get them pre-recorded on the Patreon so you can visit them whenever. And then the $35 a month, you get 4 new live classes a week, and then you also get the archive and all of those pre-recorded. She also has a program that starts in September. So if you're enjoying this episode and you're contemplating making a change, you know, September is a time for, you know, getting back on getting back on the page after the summer. You know, I'm sure you're doing lots of partying and out right now. So if you want to get fit come fall, join her program. And if you are enjoying this episode, make sure you're following the show, and wherever you're listening, rate it 5 stars. Follow me on Instagram at Slut Podcast and at Caitlin Dryden, and on TikTok at SLT Pod. If you're listening to this and would rather watch it, you can do so on Spotify or on YouTube. And while you're there, subscribe to my YouTube, even if you don't listen on YouTube. It really helps the show. And if you really want to treat me, and I love to be treated, leave a review or share my post to your page or with a friend. And if you do share it on your page, tag me at Caitlin Dryden and at Slut Podcast, and I'll make sure to repost it. Links to all that and more are in the description to this episode. All right, that's all from me. Let's get back to Stasia. Once you're sober, this is now 2011, you started getting sober. You needed to find another way to get high. And that was by doing stand-up comedy and spinning.
Yeah, so I worked at I had worked at a spin studio when I was first moved to Venice, just like at the front desk. And then a teacher who I knew from there opened her own spin studio. And she was like, yeah, come work at my desk. So I started working at the desk there and got addicted to spin because it
people
makes
really
you
do
fucking
get
high,
it,
especially in that time, you know.
Yeah.
And then I started teaching it, and I was like really good at it, and I had like a little cult following. And at the same time, I started stand up. So it just like fed each other. It was like, you know, it was like I would wake up, go teach a class or 2, have a big mic like this in my face. And then at night I'd be doing this again with the mic in my face. And it was like all making sense. And yeah, spinning makes you feel high as fuck. And I would teach a sober spin for all girls who were like in rehab and getting out of rehab. People would be just like nodding off from like coming down from like heroin in my class. I'd be smoking unfiltered Lucky Strikes in this parking lot right before I taught, and then be like, okay, let's go teach. I mean, I was insane, you know, but sober, like when you're newly sober, you're like a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
You know? Or a lot crazy.
I smoked unfiltered Camel cigarettes for a week in college, and I've never been able to smoke again.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's literally so gross. And I was just like doing it before I would do a very intense cardiovascular. Yeah, I was like, this is now an extreme sport. But yeah, I think, you know, and stand up too can get you really high when it goes well.
For sure.
You know?
And those are also 2 things that got you out of your body, essentially, out of your, or out of your mind into your body.
Yeah, just I like talking shit, and it was a way to do that and move and dance to the music and spin. Like, it was just a way to like release. And it felt like really who I was. Like, I was like, oh yeah, fitness and stand up. Okay. That's like who I am, And then I got, decided to get my personal training certificate, and I went to, I started training people a few months before COVID.
But at the same time, too, you had a show at the comedy store called Ride or Die.
Yeah, I had a show called Ride or Die. And it was like, in my opinion, it was like one of the glory days of the comedy store, because like Joe Rogan was there. There were just fucking stars every night. Like, it was just so
Didn't
exciting.
Dave Chappelle one time show up?
Yes, Dave Chappelle showed up in the middle of my show and was like, I want to get on stage. And I was like, okay. He bought tequila shots for everybody. It was like the craziest experience. So a lot of cool things like that would happen there. And like, if I had like a headliner drop out, you literally just go downstairs into the hallway and there's just like 10 fucking famous headliners there. And you're like, can you come up and do a spot? It was just very cool. It's a
serendipitous.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different vibe now, but it was, I think, just a really special time there. So I was so lucky to have a show there, and I'm very proud. I think I had it for like 3 years, and it was like my baby. It was like
didn't you in 2017 until like 2020 essentially when the pandemic happened?
I love that you like know the dates of everything, because I'm like, oh, is that when it happened? Yeah, that sounds right.
I can confirm. Yeah.
And so then around then I was like, I need to be a personal trainer. I was about to like kill everybody waiting tables. Like, I'd been waiting tables for 21 years, and I was like just so miserable. And I was like, I cannot do, like, what am I doing? So, and everyone was like, why don't you just fucking train? I'm like, yeah, I should. Like, this is stupid. So I did. I got certified, and then I started training people out of like a little personal, little private gym in Venice for, I don't know how many, I want to say like 6 months, and then COVID hit. And so then when COVID hit, I was on the phone with Laura Bites and Nicole Amy Schreiber, and we were like, I can't even remember what we were talking about, but I was basically
how you
like,
were not going to like triple in size in
like,
the pandemic.
We can't get fat. And I was like, I certainly can't, because now I'm like training people. Like, what the fuck, And I was like, okay, I'll just run us through some exercises on Zoom, just through. And I had one girl who I used to teach spin with was like, have you ever thought about teaching like a little exercise class on Zoom? We were like a week into quarantine, so I was like, no offense, but that's so stupid. Like, I thank you for saying that, but that's literally the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Like, I'm not going to do that, But then I was talking to Nicole and Laura, and I was like, okay, I'll just run us through some like lunges and shit, like on Zoom. And I was like, we'll just do it tomorrow. And then I like opened my mouth and I like told a bunch of girls, mostly just like comedians, just girls I knew from stand up. And I was like, I'm going to just run us through a couple exercises tomorrow at noon. Just come if you want, don't, whatever. And the first time I did it, I had like 25 people in there. It was like so much fun. And we had like a little coffee talk before, because we're all like starved for like a human connection.
Did you know that you were onto something when 25 people showed up?
No, not at all. I was just like, oh, this is cool, like fun. Like, yeah, okay. Because I had no idea, and then it just went really well because of course I was like used to teaching group classes. I was used to stand up. I was just talking shit the whole time and kind of like cracking jokes as like my friends and stuff. And then I was like, okay, that went really well. And I was like, well, I guess I'll do it tomorrow because I don't have fucking anything to do tomorrow, and it kind of just kept going like that. And it was just for donation for a long time. So sometimes I'd make like $20. Sometimes I'd make like $80. Like sometimes I'd make nothing. It was just don't Venmo me if you want, whatever.
Was it like, what was it giving you though? It must have been, you kept doing it. So there was something in you.
I think what it is and what I like really learned from this is like, what you should do with your life is what you would do for free. And I just naturally was like, let me lead people in some like movement and talk shit. Like, let me entertain you and train you. And like, I just kind of, and like, let me help us all. Like, I want to help us all not fall apart right now, So I think
And you knew how to do that because you had fallen apart.
Yeah, 100%.
And you picked yourself back up.
Yeah, and and I already had years of like, you know, teaching spin, and I mean, that is group fitness, you know, and I'm good on stage. I mean, I can hold, you know, I have a presence on stage and I can lead a class, and I was like all my natural gifts in one is what it felt like, you know. It was like, because I always kind of I didn't want people who knew I did stand up to know I was training people. I didn't want people who I was training people to know I was a stand up, because I thought like it delegitimized me in either way, in either area. And then I realized like, oh, once I just kind of meld it all together, like integrate all of who I am together, that's when I and wanted to do it for free. And was trying to be of service, which is really like the key to everything, I think, is when you are fully yourself, but also being of service to other people. That is when
the magic
you make
happens.
money and you build a business and you really like flourish, because then it isn't really about you. It's like I'm using all of me to help other people. And so once I've kind of got over the whole like, no, I'm not a trainer. No, I'm not a stand-up. Once I was like, oh, okay, I am all those things, you know?
And it's okay to be all those things.
And I don't do stand-up comedy anymore. I kind of lost the drive for it. And also it kind of felt like the itch was scratched for me in my class. Because if I want to talk shit, I just talk shit there, you know? So I don't, you know. And also I would get stage fright a lot. It's like, I don't really need that. And I don't get that in my class, you know? So it feels... so I just kind of naturally started doing that every day, and it just grew from there. And then Laura Bites lost 40 pounds and went on Rogan and mentioned the class, and that was a wrap, you know. Then
was that the moment you felt like you could actually start to make a living off of this?
Yeah. That was when, well, I was already making a living because I was training people individually on top of teaching my class. So I was already making like more money than I had made. But I was just about to start my group program, THOT certification, which was called Junior High at the time. And I had to change the name because I was accused of pedophilia.
Hey, we're sensing a theme here.
And so stupid. I'm like, it's a school theme. I'm not teaching young girls to be thoughts. Like everyone needs to get a fucking sense of humor. Like enough. I was just about to, I was like putting the details into place for that. And then the Rogan thing happened, and then the group program started, and the group program is really like the biggest part of my business now.
What is the group program?
So it's called THOT certification. It's an 8-week accountability program. So you have 4 classes with me a week. The minimum is you have to do 3 of my workouts a week. You have to walk 10,000 steps a day. You have to drink a gallon of water a day. And then you get personalized macros and a nutrition plan. And you're put in an accountability group with like 5 other women. We use a Discord app. And you have to send in your food diary, your steps, your water, and your sweaty selfies after you work out every single day.
The accountability aspect, did you learn that from being in AA?
Where the fuck? I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish I could remember the second I thought of that, because it would
make the story better.
It is genius. It is why the program works so well. I think a lot of everything I teach in is a lot of like AA concepts.
Yeah.
And accountability of AA, I think it was just like ingrained in me. And I started doing that with personal clients before the group program. I would have everyone would send it in to me every single day, because I was like, that's what I need. Like, that's what I'm going to offer.
Because that's the hardest part of doing
that's the number one thing.
A workout program or a fitness program.
Like any fitness program works if you do it, but it's like doing it is the hard part if you don't have any reason to, you know.
And like, also when you're doing it alone, makes it's isolating. Yeah.
So I was like, how do I make the accountability, like, how can I bring that into a group program so I can like scale this? And so at first it just started off as like text groups, and we just had like 15 text groups and I had like one assistant who was like doing all the text. I mean, it was like kind of a nightmare. And now we have like a whole system in place, and it's awesome. And I have a bunch of hall monitors who are like the accountability coaches for each group. And It's grown a lot. But the accountability is literally everything. It's everything. It's everything. And like we just get the most amazing feedback from women about the program. And, once you finish the 8 weeks, we have PhD, which is ongoing. You can do 4 weeks, 8 weeks, you can, whatever you can keep. Some people have been doing it for like 2 years, not because they can't lose weight, but because they just need the accountability. Like even if they're just maintaining where they are, it's like, I want to be able to like send in my steps and my workouts, and you don't want to let your group down, and it helps. You're inspired by the other people who made it happen, and it just works. It fucking works. We need each other. We're pack animals,
And you also have a Patreon, which people can subscribe to if they're not ready to do the whole accountability aspect, which is what I have been doing for like almost a year now, coming up in April. And another part that really made your program stand out to me was that you weave in the mantras to the workout. So can you explain what that is?
Yeah, God, I can't even remember how it started. It would be interesting. I should go back and find when I started doing the mantras. And it's like, again, it's like everything that I teach, it's like all stuff I need to hear. It's not like me up on a fucking being like, I'm at this level now. It's like, no, I'm doing all stuff that I fucking need. Like, I think people feeling like you have to like or enjoy fitness is like a reason why so many people don't do it or drop out, because it's like, well, I fucking don't. I don't. So I guess this is for people who are just like naturally like, yay, I fucking love it. And yes, those people exist. God bless them. But like, I'm not that person. I never have been. And I think it speaks to like my kind of rebellious like nature. I'm like, no, I'm not going to like bullshit anybody. Like it doesn't help to try and trick yourself into liking it. Like you have to just do it anyway. That's the thing. And I think it's helpful to hear that while you're working out, because it is fucking torture when you're doing it, and the mantras are because, I got so into, every morning when I wake up, I listen to at least 20 minutes of Abraham Hicks and I meditate for 15 minutes every morning, every fucking morning. Obviously, like I did TMS and medication and stuff, but I really think that brainwashing myself with Abraham Hicks. And yes, it is woo-woo as fuck, okay?
And it's annoying.
Yes. But I do think that it was maybe the number one thing that changed the way that I think and the way that I talk to myself and the way that I think about my life. It just changed everything for me. And when you listen to Abraham Hicks repeatedly, there are a lot of mantras, like things are always working out for me. Like those are things that come from Abraham Hicks.
Yeah.
And that I would practice saying, like when I meditate, I say the universe supports me over and over again in my head. Like I just do over and over and over. Obviously your mind wanders or whatever, but I'm always saying that mantra as I'm meditating. And I was like, why? I should be telling people this during class, because it helps me so much, because it's so easy to just not even notice what your thoughts are doing. And then when you start doing mantras and it's so uncomfortable for me or anyone to say something like, I love my body. Like it's so like it's interesting how, oh God, like that feels weird and like a lie. And it's like, why does it feel like a lie when I say I love my body? Like how fucked is that? Like
we've been trained.
Yeah, we've already been brainwashed.
Yeah.
So it's just choosing how you're going to brainwash yourself, because your reality is a reflection of your beliefs, which are just a culmination of the thoughts you're thinking. And you can control your thoughts, but you have to consciously do it. And first you have to notice what your thoughts are before you can change them. And it's like it's hard to even notice them at first because they're just so automatic.
You're so used to these negative
and so
feedback.
Everything you're experiencing is just like a result of what you've been thinking in the past, and so it's just so hard to get out of that and to change the way you're thinking and to notice when you're having negative thoughts and then consciously replace them with thoughts that match the body and life that you want to see in reality. But I was just doing so much work on that myself, and seeing amazing results, like manifesting things that I never even realized were actually possibilities for me. Like I started School of THOT in a room this big, my studio apartment. And then suddenly I was in this like amazing house with a yard and like my business was growing. And then I met like the man of my dreams and like everything. I was just manifesting so much. And it was because I was forcing myself to like, and I'm a hater. Like I'm Irish Italian from Boston. Like I'm a hater. Like I spent all my time doing stand-up and with comics and like we're just haters.
You wish that this didn't work.
Yes, all the time. Like, I'm so sorry to break the news to you guys that this is the fucking key because like you have to watch what you're thinking and saying. And I'm not perfect at it at all. I need the mantras just as much as anybody, if not more. And like that is part of what makes me so happy about teaching them is that then when I need them, they get fucking returned right back to me from like Whitney. You know what I mean? Like, and then I'm like, well, thank God she's doing them now because now I need to be reminded of it. And like, that's kind of the crux of the whole program too. It's like accountability, like women supporting women. It's like, you're not going to be perfect all the time. I'm not perfect all the time, but now I have like a community where when someone's falling back and maybe that person is me, because we're human. We're like there to help each other.
You're there.
You know? But yeah, the mantras to me are game changer. And at first I was like a little hesitant of like how it would be received because it is super fucking woo-woo and annoying as fuck. And like some people did quit the Patreon because they said I was getting too witchy or something. And I was like, okay, dude, whatever. But I've also gotten so much feedback from people like these mantras are changing my life. Like I've never said such nice things to myself. I actually like, people's lives are changing for the better because they're talking to themselves differently and they're expecting different things from their lives. And that is actually more fulfilling to me than like even someone being like, I lost 100 pounds. I'm like, oh, you are nice to yourself now?
Yeah.
That's like crazy.
Honestly, I can really say that School of THOT has like changed the way I talk to myself. Truly. Like
so happy.
Especially like, when especially you're trying to achieve stuff as a creative and when stuff doesn't work out and you're not making the money that you want, I've had like a lot of fear around that. I've released that fear, which feels very freeing.
It's like practicing trusting the universe without evidence.
Yeah.
Which is like antithetical to everything we've been taught. It's like see it and then you can believe it. But really it's believe it, then you see it. And that's literally backwards from what we've all been taught to do.
Yeah.
So it's uncomfortable. And making money on women is $1 billion industry. I mean, like
it really is.
They make so much money off of all of us feeling ugly and fat because like makeup and cosmetic, everything. It's like they make money off of us feeling like we're not enough, So being able to like help us all feel a little bit better about ourselves, it's like,
it's a good thing.
Yeah, dude, it's the best.
So right now, you'll be heading back to Greece next week. You're going back to see your husband. You have your dog with you now.
So excited.
In other interviews, like I heard you say that you felt like a lot of shame for wasting your 20s and, part of your 30s.
Yeah.
Do you think you've released that shame?
It's gone. I'm like grateful for all of it because I wouldn't be here without any of it. And like, now I realize like I had to go through all that shit. I had to go so fucking dark and get my way out so I could help other people out, you know, like I feel like it gives me street credit, like
definitely
before I was
have
like,
street cred now. Yeah.
And before I was like, not, I was like, God, what a fucking waste. And now I'm like, no, there's nothing about my life that's traditional. So of course I had to go that way, and I'm not ashamed at all. I feel very proud of what I've built and I want to make it even bigger. And listen, I'm if that's what it took to get where I am, then fine, I would do it again,
Yeah. Thank you so much for everything you've brought to my life and for letting me come here today and intrude your space.
Oh my gosh, it was my pleasure. I'm so glad you came.
Yeah, this has been amazing. And I just have one last question before we leave, which this is the only question I ask everybody who comes on Slut. What is a slut to you?
It's a confident woman Well, I think that would be like our hope, or just like a whore. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would like to say someone who's very comfortable in her sexuality, or a whore, I don't know.
A slut is a confident woman or a whore. Truer words have never been spoken. Thank you so much, Stasia, for coming on the show. You were the best slut, non-slut we could have. And if you want to learn more about the School of Thought or Stasia, go to stasiapatwell.com and follow her on Instagram at Stasia Patwell. She has a program starting in September, so if you're intrigued, go do it. And if you don't want to bite the full bullet right now, join her Patreon. It's $20 a month or $35. It is, a really easy thing to commit to for a few months to see if you like it. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're following the show wherever you're listening and rate it 5 stars. Follow me on Instagram at Caitlin Dryden and at Slut Podcast, and on TikTok at SLT Pod. If you're listening to this and you would rather watch it, you can do so on Spotify or on YouTube. And subscribe to my YouTube, even if you don't listen or watch there. It really helps the show. And if you really want to treat me, and I love to be treated, leave a review or share this show on your story, or share some of my posts on your story. And if you do that, make sure you tag me at Caitlin Dryden and at Slut Podcast, and I will be sure to repost it. Links to all that are in the description to this episode. And I will be back very soon, sluts. But in the meantime, do something slutty this summer. Have a little bit of fun. It's beautiful out. And, also don't forget about sun safety. That's also important. Talk to you soon, sluts.